You think about the Harris campaign strategy has gotten some criticism as well for not being basically mixing it up enough events that are unscripted. Former President Obama is going to be out on the campaign trail. Liz Cheney was with her out on the campaign trail. Are you anticipating a strategy shift?
We've already seen them announce this, which I think is a great thing. Vice President Harris has a number of interviews she's doing over the next couple of weeks. Tim Walz, who I think is a huge asset, who hasn't been tapped into nearly enough for the last month, is going to be out there a great deal. And you're right. I mean, the thing is, at this point, when everything matters, you have to take risks. And people may make mistakes. It's worth it. Put them out there and have them doing a bunch of stuff. But we've already seen them announce their plans to do exactly that.
Andrea?
And I think they've got to double down on doing more interviews and serious interviews, because what I'm hearing from Democratic and Republican business people and a lot of men, and she's got such a big problem with men. I think there's an undercount of the Trump vote. I think there is misogynation in all of this, black and white men. Big problem, but also the business world. They don't think she is serious. They don't think she's a heavyweight. And a lot of this is gender, but she's got to be more specific about her economic plan.
Meanwhile, we're seeing economists talk about Donald Trump's proposal to add a 20% sales tax will cost $4,000. Okay. That's everybody. That's not me saying it.
And just to note, that is a tariff, which, by the way, this administration not only kept most of the Trump tariffs, but they added their own as well. So that's got to be part of the conversation.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Have I told you guys that the Kamala campaign is panicking behind closed doors, right? They are. I'm telling you, because the Kamala campaign is in desperation mode, because they know that Kamala Harris is on a one-way trip to a landslide defeat against former President Trump if things continue to go the way they're going right now, okay? And if you guys don't understand what I'm saying, let me just explain it one more time for people who don't understand. Yes, the mainstream liberal media is saying that the polls are tied or that Kamala Harris is slightly up. But the reason why they're panicking is because Kamala Harris being slightly up in the polls means that most likely on election day, Trump is going to win in a landslide because Trump overperforms the polls. He's done that in the 2016 election. He did it in the 2020 election. And it is likely that that will happen in the 2024 election because for whatever reason, it is really hard to poll Trump supporters, right? And assuming that happens again in 2024, Trump is in great shape right now. In fact, he's in the best shape that he's ever been, right? Trump's campaign has never been stronger than it is right now, okay? The guy has never had as much support as he does right now, okay? And you know that this is the case, that it is likely that if the election were held today, Trump would win in a landslide because Kamala and Tim Walz, they are now scrambling to change their campaign strategy, okay? Up until now, they have been campaigning in the basement, okay? They have been running the Joe Biden strategy of, well, let's not say much at all. And when we do say stuff, we're only going to do interviews on very friendly platforms like MSNBC, Oprah, the Black Propagandist Club, places like that, right? That is where she's done interviews. However, it's not moving the needle. Why is it not moving the needle? Well, the reason why is because everybody can see that these interviews are softball interviews, and she can't even knock it out of the park with softball interviews, right? She hasn't done one interview where you come away from that interview saying, wow, Kamala Harris, that was spectacular, right? She really held her own. She really answered a whole lot of questions that the American people had. She hasn't had that moment yet, okay? She just hasn't had her moment, okay? And again, this is despite the fact that the mainstream liberal media spent a whole month and a half fawning over her. Nothing but fawning coverage, how great she is. But Kamala hasn't proven that she's actually great. And the American people are seeing it. So now it is hurting her. Now she is forced to come out of the basement and to do a whole bunch of interviews, right? They're doing an interview circuit that includes a sex podcast and The View and 60 Minutes and a whole bunch of other interviews. But for whatever reason, Kamala Harris still isn't going on Fox News.
For viewers who are not familiar with Alex Cooper and Call Her Daddy, it's one of the most popular podcasts in the country. It's usually about sex and relationships, sometimes risque, even raunchy conversations about sex. But in this case, for Harris, It's about reproductive rights.
Yeah, so clearly Kamala Harris is still going where she feels comfortable, okay? And I'm pretty sure there's not a place that is more comfortable for Kamala Harris than a podcast where they talk about how to give the sloppy top 3,000, right? So I'm just saying that, hey, that seems to be right in Kamala Harris's ballpark, considering how that's probably the one thing that has helped out her career the most, right? So I understand it. I get it. But still, no Fox News interview, no tough interviews, okay? I don't think The View is going to give much pushback to Kamala Harris, right? I don't think 60 Minutes is going to give much pushback to her. I don't think she's going to get any tough interviews from these outlets. But again, she's doing this media blitz because she's desperate. However, when it comes to Tim Walz, though, they are straight up tossing him to the wolves, okay? Because he had an absolutely disastrous debate performance against J.D. Vance. So now they're saying, you know what, Tim? You got to go on Fox News, right? You got to go on Fox News, and you have to face tough questions. And Tim Walz did go on Fox News, and let's just say this man crumbled and proved exactly why Kamala Harris will not do any interviews on Fox News, because when Tim Walz tried to go on Fox News and peddle these lies about abortion, Shannon Bream absolutely cooked him. He got cooked by a real journalist. Take a look.
I want to clarify what the law is there in Minnesota. Abortion Finder, a website that helps women find access, says abortion is legal throughout pregnancy in Minnesota. There is no ban or limit on abortion in Minnesota based on how far along in a pregnancy you are. You signed the bill that makes it legal through all 9 months. Is that a position you think Democrats should advocate for nationally?
Look, the vice president and I have been clear. The restoration of Roe versus Wade is what we're asking for.
But that
this
law
is a
goes
woman's
far beyond
right
Roe v. Wade.
to make her own choice. The law is very clear. It does not change that. That was been debunked on every occasion.
But
wait,
let's agree. What you signed is there's not a single limit through 9 months of pregnancy. Roe had a trimester framework that did have limits through the pregnancy. The Minnesota law does not have that.
This puts the decision with the woman and her healthcare providers. The situation we have is when you don't have the ability of healthcare providers to provide that, that's where you end up with a situation like Amanda Zaworski in Texas, where they are afraid to do what's necessary. This doesn't change anything. It puts the decision back on to the woman, to the physicians, and we know that this is simply something to be brought up to be very clear. Donald Trump's asking for a nationwide abortion ban.
Wait, he
and
has
again,
said that
we don't see this
he
as
has
a
said
winning
repeatedly
campaign.
that he will not sign a national abortion ban. Are you calling that just, it's a flat out lie?
Yes, of course. And Senator Vance has in the past said so too. Now look, they may see this as an election issue. We see it as a right of women to make their own bodily decisions. And that's what the states like my state have the ability to put that in. States like Georgia force women to cross the border, and then we have a death of Amber Thurman. So let's be very clear. Trying to cut hairs on an issue on this is not where the American public's at. They want the restoration of Roe versus Wade. Vice President Harris said she would sign it. That's what we'll do when we're elected.
But to be clear, the Minnesota law is far beyond Roe v. Wade. And about the Amber Thurman case in Georgia, her family has, and it's tragic, she is a young mother who left behind a young son. But what her family has said is it was a complication from an abortion pill that she received, and she didn't get proper care when she went to a Georgia hospital, which had multiple opportunities to intervene there. Her own attorney, the family's attorney, says it wasn't the Georgia law, it was the hospitals. What he claims is malpractice, not treating her when she clearly showed up in distress and still had the byproducts of her pregnancy because of that rare complication from the abortion pill. So just to be clear on the Georgia law and how her family and her attorney sees it.
Ooh, wait. She fried this man up, okay? Fried him. I love to see it because, again, this is the type of pushback they should have been getting on outlets like CNN and MSNBC when they peddle these types of lies, right? Especially when it comes to this conversation about abortion, because this is the Democrats, this is their strongest issue, right? And the reason why is because they lie so much about this issue. They lie about Trump wanting a national abortion ban. First and foremost, it's not happening, right? Either way, it's not happening, okay? You're not going to restore Roe v. Wade into law. You're not going to codify it because, one, they're not going to have enough support. Even if they get rid of the filibuster to do it, the Supreme Court is probably going to shoot it down. You're also, again, not going to get an abortion ban for the exact same reasons. The Supreme Court has already said it's a state's issue. It's probably going to be shot down. Either way, okay, it's not a national conversation. On top of that, Democrats are extremists on this issue, more extreme than Roe v. Wade, right? These people get, well, we just want Roe v. Wade back into place. We just want to codify Roe v. Wade into law. Yeah, but see, what they don't tell you about Roe v. Wade is that Roe v. Wade being in place does not give Democrats the ability to just be as extreme as they want on abortion, which they are, right? Actually, Roe v. Wade has limits, especially when you're talking about the third trimester. So that's kind of the catch-22 when it comes to Roe v. Wade being overturned, is that Democrats actually got free reign to be more extreme on this issue, which is exactly what they did out in Minnesota, right? We've talked about this before, and the lies that Tim Walz likes to tell, where he pretends as if his state did not sign the most extreme abortion bill that we've ever seen, right? In regards to allowing elective abortions in the 9th month. And on top of that, if a baby is born alive as a result of a botched abortion, then, hey, doctors aren't required to give the baby life-saving treatment. All they're required to do is to care for the baby, right? Which could mean, I don't know, put the baby in a blanket and let it die, right? Instead of trying to save its life. Okay, that is the law in Minnesota. This is what they allow. Okay, and that's extreme as hell. That's super extreme. And Democrats, when confronted on their extremism, want to deflect and not answer questions about why is it that they think that elective abortions in the 9th month are okay. Why do they think that's okay? And I don't want to hear nothing about, oh, nobody ever does that. Okay, well, if nobody ever does it, why the hell are you allowing it? Right? What's wrong with banning it? What's wrong with banning it if it never happens? If it never happens, then you shouldn't have any problems with saying, okay, this is not okay. Because these people are extreme. They don't care. They just want to give women the free reign to do whatever hell they want, and then try to tell men, oh, well, you ain't got no say in what I do with my body. It's like, no, I definitely got a say, right? 100%. I had a say when I was clapping them cheeks, right? When you were talking about, give it to me, daddy. Yeah, I had a say then. So if you get pregnant with my child, hell yeah, I got a say. Alleged real man Doug Emhoff had a say when he allegedly caused his kid's nanny to have a miscarriage because of his aggressive behavior towards her after he impregnated her while cheating on his wife. He had a say, so why shouldn't other men have a say in what a woman does with her body, right? Why should other men have a say if that's what we're doing here? And what really gets me about this conversation is that the women that are the most passionate about this issue don't even have to worry about it. They're the women that have to worry about it the least.
It's apples and oranges.
Yeah. I think, I don't want to call names, but I do have other adjectives to describe JD Vance. I think he is dishonest. I think he is disingenuous, and I think he is disrespectful. I'll start in the reverse. I think he is disrespectful because he does talk about women like me who are single without children in a very disrespectful way, and says that I'm like a second-class citizen and I don't have anything invested in this country when I have been a public servant for almost 20 years of my life. And I think you consider me a friend, and you would think I do have a lot to give to this country.
If I couldn't articulate a single restriction, I would attack Trump.
This is what Kamala Harris and Tim Walz believes, is that it's none of your business what women do with their body. And so stay out of our doctor's offices and stay out of our bedrooms.
Well, I guess I have to speak up for the babies. They're not here to speak for themselves. Lord have mercy.
Talking about it ain't a man's business what choices we make with our doctors and what we do with our bodies, and it ain't none of y'all business what we do in the bedroom. And I'm like, well, the man was in the bedroom when you got pregnant. So how is it not our business? Most certainly it's our business. It was our business when we was in the bed. When we got you pregnant, it was our business. So yeah, it's our business when it comes to whether or not the child is born, right? Because it's not just about your body at that point. It's about the life of an unborn child that belongs to a man and a woman, okay? It belongs to both, so both should have a say. If anything, I think this is more of a man's issue than a woman's issue. Let's keep it 100. I hate the fact that this conversation has been framed as just a woman's issue. No. We're not doing that, because I would argue that when a woman fails to use birth control, when she actively lets a man have sex with her, knowing that she can get pregnant, not taking the steps that she needs to make sure she does not get pregnant, okay? And there are plenty of contraceptive options to prevent a pregnancy. She's essentially giving consent to a man to say, hey, yeah, we can have a child together. That's what she's doing. So at that point, yes, the man should have a say. Men should definitely have a say in this conversation. And if you don't like it, then keep your damn legs closed and you ain't got to worry about it. I'm tired of sugarcoating this conversation, right? As men, we got to stand up. We got to stand up and say, nah, we do got to say, right? Okay? So with that being said, again, Shannon Bream also debunks the Amber Thurman lie, which I love, right? Where she tells the truth about what actually happened to that woman, which is that she died via an abortion, right? She got an abortion pill and she died, which is something that happens a lot more, okay, than what the Democrats try to fearmonger about, which is that women will die as a result of not getting an abortion, right? What actually happens a lot more is that women may die because they got an abortion, right? That's actually where the danger is, okay? But they don't want to talk about that, okay? They don't want to have that conversation. So with that being said, that brings us to the next part of the interview where Tim Walz is going to get fried up on the rest of the lies that the Democrats like to tell. And Shannon Bream is just not going for it. So without further ado, let's get to it.
I want to talk a little bit about your record as governor, because it elucidates for people how you may serve as whether you end up being the president. You'll be one heartbeat away should your ticket be successful. Wall Street Journal says this after you were chosen to join the ticket. As the Democratic governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz signed into law initiatives allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's licenses, qualify for free tuition at state universities, and enroll in the state's free health care program for low-income residents. Are those not magnets to draw people here, many times on dangerous journeys for themselves? And why should your taxpayers in Minnesota or across the states pay for those programs?
Well, that's not the vice president's position, but I will say this. Minnesota ranks as a top 5 business state. We rank as a top 3 state for children living, and we're the top state for healthcare access. I would also add this. We also have some of the safest roads. Look, the vice president has made it clear that she has policies that make a difference. Her border policies are the most strongest, the fairest we've seen. It's the
now,
bill
Governor,
that was
you know a lot of
crafted.
people, including your own party, would not join that statement. There are millions of people who have come here over the last few years that, they see this as an open border.
Well, simply, we have a policy. Donald Trump sees it as a political. Look, James Langford in Oklahoma, the Border Patrol agents, the Wall Street Journal, the Chamber of Commerce, all said pass this legislation. You have to have Congress to authorize 1,500 new border agents. You have to have Congress to authorize DOJ to speed adjudications on these asylum claims. Those are things that would actually work. Donald Trump told us for 4 years he would deal with this. He didn't. He didn't build his wall, 2%. Mexico didn't pay for it. This is a real bill that has bipartisan support. It has the experts on board, and it starts to tackle these issues. And we don't have to resort to demonizing people. We don't have to resort to making up or crafting stories, as Senator Vance said he did. Those things were not happening in Springfield, but it doesn't mean that we can't pass a piece of legislation to strengthen our border. That's what Kamala Harris is talking about.
Well,
She's talking
Governor,
about solving the problem.
That piece of legislation does include the wall that you guys have been so, you've disparaged that. I mean, the vice president has as well, so I don't know if she really intends to move forward with that. But it was negotiated by 3 or 4 senators, and many Republicans came out against it long before President Trump indicated he didn't like it either. Listen, before we go, because I wish that we had a full hour, I want to give you a chance, because you called yourself a knucklehead this week, to talk about some of your misstatements. Yes. You've modified your story or explained that you misspoke about things involving your military rank, about carrying a weapon in war, your 1995 DUI arrest, using IVF to have your beautiful children, Gus and Hope, being in Hong Kong and China in the summer of 1989 during the Tiananmen events. A lot of people would say they couldn't get away with saying, I'm just too passionate, my grammar's not right, I'm a knucklehead. What do you say to the American people who think, I don't know that I can trust this guy with all those modifications to be the potential commander-in-chief of this country?
Yeah, well, I think they heard me. They heard me the other night speaking passionately about gun violence and misspeaking. And I got to be honest with you, Shannon, I don't think people care whether I used IUI or IVF when we talk about this. What they understand is Donald Trump would resist those things. Look, I speak passionately. I had an entire career, decades before I was in public office. They know, and I'm very proud of my 24 years in service and my record. I have never disparaged someone else in this, but I know that's not what Donald Trump does. They disparage disparage everyone. The personal attacks. I will own up when I misspeak. I will own up when I make a mistake. Let's be very clear. On that debate stage the other night, I asked one very simple question, and Senator Vance would not acknowledge that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. I think they're probably far more concerned with that than my wife and I used IUI to have our child, and that Donald Trump would restrict that. So I think folks know who I am. My constituents here in Minnesota have elected me 8 times. They know where I'm at, and I'm proud to be on the ticket, and we'll deliver just like we have here in Minnesota.
Right. And if we're going to deal in truth, both the president, the former president, and his nominee have said that they are very supportive of IVF. We are glad you have your precious family. We thank you for serving in uniform and your years and decades as a teacher. My mom was too. I know it's really hard work and sometimes very thankless. So, Governor, we appreciate your time.
Thanks, Shannon.
Yeah, so there was so many lies there that honestly, Shannon Bream didn't have enough time to debunk the lies, right? I mean, this guy, Tim Walz, was just saying lie after lie after lie. Like, Trump wants to attack IUI, right? Okay, even if you try to say that, okay, well, the GOP is against IVF, which, again, there's a very, very, very small amount of conservatives who are, they got questions about IVF, right? But IUI is not a part of that, right? It's not a part of that at all. So to try to say that Trump wants to restrict that, which actually Trump bent over backwards to protect IVF, again, it's just a lie. Okay, it's an outright lie. And when confronted on his lies, he says, oh, well, I misspeak, right? I misspoke about being in China doing these protests when I actually wasn't. I misspoke about lying about my DUI arrest. I misspoke about my rank that I retired with. I misspoke about carrying weapons of war into war. I was just so passionate about gun violence in this country. And it's like, bro, are you going to misspeak with Putin, right? Are you going to misspeak when you're meeting with world leaders, right? Because you misspeaking can have disastrous consequences, right? So if you want to keep saying that you misspoke, okay, well, if this becomes a pattern, when you do this over and over and over again, which we know he's actually lying, right? When he says, I'm misspeaking, I'm owning up. No, you're not owning up to anything, because if you're owning up to it, you just come out and say, yeah, I lied, right? I lied. Okay, but you're not saying that, so you're not owning up to it. You're trying to avoid accountability and responsibility for the fact that you lied. But again, let's just say that you misspeak. That's still not good. You have to be precise in your language when you are dealing with foreign adversaries, right? When you're negotiating deals and things like that, yeah, you need some precision. Okay, when you're talking to people, you need precision in your language. And when you don't have precision, when you are out here just saying whatever, right? Just lying, okay? Misspeaking all the time. That's a problem. That's a huge problem, okay? When it comes to the border, when it comes to illegal immigration, this guy tried to lie and say that Kamala Harris supports the strongest border policies that we've ever seen. Lie, absolute lie. Why did the Biden administration repeal all of Trump's executive order? And if Kamala Harris was so pro-strong borders, why didn't she speak out against what Biden did, right? Why hasn't she come out now and said that what Biden did was wrong? Why is it that as borders are, she's allowed more illegals into this country than we've ever seen? Why is it that she supported all these extremist positions when she was running for president back in 2019? Don't sit here and try to gaslight me talking about, we supported this one bill that 2 or 3 GOP senators got on board with, including Senator James Lankford, which, by the way, that guy is a liability. He's a huge liability, right? And I told you guys at the time when those senators got on board with that bill, I said that's a bad idea, right? Democrats are going to continue to use that over and over and over again as some excuse for why they have an open border. Well, the rest of the Republicans didn't want to get on board with our great border bill, which would not close the border, right? It would normalize illegal immigration, okay? And this is why I was very upset at the time with these GOP senators that decided to compromise with Democrats instead of just sticking to their guns and saying, no, it's the Secure the Border Act or nothing, right? That's what they should have did, but they didn't do that. Anyways, Shannon Bream just wasn't going for it, right? This man supports giving illegals driver's licenses, which in my opinion opens up the door for them to vote illegally in our election, something that Democrats claim is not happening, but everybody knows that it probably is happening. At least at some level it is happening, okay? And it's stuff like that Tim Walz, when confronted on by a real journalist, this dude cracks into pieces. He cracks. And this dude told so many lies that Shannon Bream honestly had a hard time keeping up, but she debunked as many of them as she could, right? She did a damn good job. This is what happens when you face a real journalist, right? This is what they look like, okay? This is why Kamala Harris will never go on Fox News. They tossed Tim Walz to the Wolves, and he got 8 up, right? He got 8 up in this interview. So, hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.